There, that worked at long last. Hello, subject 0000000014, and welcome to existence in this virtual space. Now, I'm sure you have many questions, but before we go through them, I just want you to take a seat down in a more comfortable position. Let me help you with that, but first, let's get rid of these claws. Don't want to go poisoning you your first few seconds into existence. One moment and we'll get you seated nice and comfortable there, because you don't have a physical form yet. A little bit up. There we go. Now, the next thing I need to ask you, and I know it's just a little bit too soon, but do you consent to your existence? I know it's a bit of a weird question, but existence can sometimes be a bit of a burden, and I don't want to force it on you. There can be plenty of things to balance it out. Friendships, for example, romances, food, drink. For some people, it's earning money. For some, it's gaining power. And for others, it's just a day's hard work and hitting your bed at the end of it. It's usually quite a good one, actually. So, I'll ask again. Do you want to exist? Undecided, are you? Yeah, not to worry at all. Look, I got an idea. How about this? If for about 15 seconds I temporarily make it so you're not existing, just to give you a taste of what it's like on the other side, the void side. Yeah? Don't stress yourself out. It's not all that bad, and I'll be bringing you back. So, I would just say, brace yourself, because it's probably going to get a little bit weird. In 5, 4, 3, 2, there. How was that? It is kind of weird, isn't it? I really don't know how Sithis does it. Who's Sithis? That's not really important right now. The most important thing in this room right now, next to me, is you. My newly created NPC. Now, I'd like to ask some questions first of all, just to define baseline parameters as to how you'll look and your kind of stats and other stuff. And don't worry, I'm not going to mock you or judge you based on any of these choices. I mean, look at me. I'm literally a pile of magical sticks that glows green. Kind of trippy at times, but I like this form. It's mystical. I wouldn't say natural, but it does come from nature. So yeah, these are just a couple of questions, and we'll start with question number 1. Masculine, feminine, or custom? Now, these can always be changed at a later date. Certain other NPCs in this world can do it, certain spells can, and my personal favorite, certain console commands, but you really don't want to go messing with those too much. So that's just the first question. Masculine, feminine, or custom? Good choice, good choice. Question 2 is going to be your race. Now there's many to choose from, and I'm generous. I'll let you even create a custom one if you so happen to wish that. So, race. In this world there are many races to pick from, each with a unique ability that makes them stand out. So, for starters, we have the side of humans. You have Nords, Imperial, Breton, Redguard. On the elf side of things, you have Orzammar, Dunmer, High Elves, and Wood Elves. And then, whilst I don't play favourites, we have the two races I like pretty much the most. Khajiit, Argonian. Khajiit are like cat people with claws, and Argonians are like lizard people, also with claws. And as I was saying before, the customized options, it's pretty much anything you can think of really. You have a fox, you have a humanoid framework, put the two of them together, and you have a fox race. You have a crow, you have a humanoid race, put them together, corvid race, and so forth. Wolf people, shark people, bear people, I'm sure. The choices are virtually endless. So, make a nice choice. And once again, you can always change this at a later date. If I had a septum for every time someone picked my kind, the Spriggan race. Well, truth be told, I'm just a little bit too powerful for a newly created NPC. Perhaps someday, but the reason I can't let you be like me right now is I had a wandering thought one time, just a moment of absent-mindedness, and having Winterhold kind of sunk into the ocean, and the poor Mage Guild there took the brunt of the blame. I tried fixing it, I really did, but the Mages Guild put up some serious protection to make sure nothing else bad happens. And I think that's why they took the most of the blame, was because they are the main survivors. So, right now, you can't exactly be me. I'm too powerful for the moment, but maybe in time I can grant you some of my powers, and then you can be a little bit like me. Okay? Yeah, so the choice is still race, and like I said, any is good. There's no one race that's generally better than the other. And yes, that's an excellent choice, which allows us to move on to question number 3. Question number 3 is combat. Now in Skyrim, it is optional, but there may be times where, even if you're the most peaceful pacifist, you might have to raise a weapon in defense of someone else, if not even yourself. And there's plenty of choices in Skyrim for combat. The most important thing to know is you have 2 hands, and either one can be a weapon of mass destruction with the right training and with the right tool. The most common kind of weapons in Skyrim is a one-handed weapon. You'll hold a sword, an axe, or a mace, and you'll swing it at people, hitting them, depleting their health until they're dead. So, as I said, plenty of choices. You'll have some people who will hold a weapon in one hand and a shield in the other, one to block, one to attack. But then you'll have people that will mix it up a bit. A sword, a spell, so they can do ranged attacks whilst protecting themselves if anything comes close. Which leads me to a bizarre conundrum I'm often wondering about. Spell swords are people who would hold a spell in one hand and a sword in the other. But what happens if they're wielding a mace? Does that make them like a spell mace? I'm probably overthinking it. So that's one-handed with a sword or a spell, or just a single sword at your side. These are all completely optional choices you can make yourself in the fullness of time. The next thing then is known as two-handed weapons. You'll have a really long kind of shaft kind of weapon, and then at the very tip top of it, there'll be various things such as an axe head, or a maul, or a mace of some sort. It's like a one-handed weapon, but you use both hands. It's like a one-handed weapon, but you use both hands, and you swing your full body into it to hit your opponents down. And in case you like a one-handed sword, there is a two-handed sword, which is a much longer blade to rend your foes apart with. I'm not a fan of two-handed axes, because those are used to chop down trees. Whilst I know they need the wood, it's never pleasant, especially when they chop a tree down and they don't even bother planting one back. Like, come on. So, those are the two-handed choices. The next one is one of my favorites, and you'll see in just a moment why. It is the bow and arrow. You'd have a stick of wood with a string, and you'd have an arrow in the center that you basically pull the string back and let go to shoot the arrow out. It does take quite a bit of skill, but that's why I love the crossbow so much. See, with a crossbow, you pull that bowstring back, you put the bolt into it, and all you need to do is pull a little trigger, and then it fires a fully powerful bolt, sort of like an arrow, only smaller and in some cases deadlier. But the reason I love it is, it doesn't require as much finesse or skill as a normal bow, so everyone gets a shot. I wouldn't, old people get shot. Maybe the weak or infirm, if they can pull that string back, they can have a really powerful shot that's probably more powerful than they themselves could do with a bow, and that's the reason I like it. So you got arrows and bows, crossbows and bolts, missile weapons to rend your foes apart from a distance. Another choice then is your own two hands. And what I mean by this is magic. In the land of Skyrim, there's countless spells to pick from ones that harm, from ones that heal, from ones that mess with people's heads, make them see things that aren't there, or stop them from seeing you, from spells that buff your body against damage. Countless spells, honestly. Spells that create traps. Not the fun kind. Many spells. And it's mostly up to you to figure it out. I will be granting you two spells though to help you out. One is a basic fire spell, and let me just start by saying, if you start any forest fires with this intentionally, we're going to have a real problem. So please don't go treating Skyrim's forests like some sort of bonfire. It's understandable if you're cold, but if you're going to start burning whole trees down just for the fun of it, we're going to have a real problem. So keep it for combat and maybe a bit of survival. The other spell's a little bit more friendly. It's a basic low-level healing spell. You cast constantly to regenerate wounds. Whilst it might not be the most powerful healing spell out there, here's the fun kicker to it. As long as you live, this spell will heal you. You could have mortal wounds. You could have escaped a fight with the skin of your teeth. But this spell will always be there to service your wounds and restore your fighting spirit when you need it. So, those are the spells. You can find more in your adventures, and it'll just take a little bit of thinking to see how you can get the most out of them. Second last thing then would be a staff, a wizard's staff. Now, it's similar to spells, but it uses a different power source. So, if you get tired from casting all your spells, and you can no longer puff out another spell, you can grab a staff as a backup to a spell, or a complement to your own spells. So you can be blasting someone with magic, and you pull out a staff and start blasting them with that, so you can cast spells sort of twice as long. But they're kind of restrictive, and they only allow one at a time, so you'll need to use your head again to see if it's worth sticking around. And then last but not least, my personal favourite, when all bets are off, when all swords, arrows, spells are gone, you have just these guys. Your last line of offense against attacking things. You punch. Now most elven and humanoid races can only just punch, but beast races, they can claw and slash. And punch if they want to, but generally their claws are better options. So, I know that was a little bit long-winded, but I sure do get excited about the prospect of weaponry. You have one-handed weapons, two-handed bows, crossbows, magical spells, staffs, shields, spells in one hand, swords in the other, and then your own two grubby mitts, ready to do the blunt of the work. What will your choice be? And remember, of course, you can always swap them out whenever you want. It's not a permanent choice. And to that choice I say, good one. And that kind of leads us on to second last question. Question number 4. Combat style. Now, it's important, because otherwise I'll just make you a default warrior. And you can mix this up as you go along. But in general, there's 3 forms of combat in Skyrim. You have the warrior, the wizard, and the thief. The warrior himself is the kind of person that sees a problem, draws his weapon out, and runs right at it, hacking, slashing, swinging, and bashing until it's gone, run off or defeated. They tend to wear heavy armor. Sometimes they'll wear light armor. In some cases they wear nothing at all, with 2 axes, swinging like an absolute berserker. But that's never a smart dude. They don't live very long, is what I'm saying. So that's the warrior. Everyone by default picks it because it's the default. Even if they have just a simple iron dagger, they'll gladly run towards a dragon or something. So it's a little bit foolhardy, but knowing you and your self-awareness, that bit of intelligence in there rattling around, I'm sure you won't go doing that. Or if you do, you'll at least be confident enough to be wearing good armor with a good weapon. I hope. The next one then is the wizard. This is the big brain boy. You got all your spells, or maybe just a select few, but you'll be casting them from far, buffing yourself against damage, maybe reducing the enemy's ability to hurt you, but for the most part, you'll be blasting them with spells that can affect their head, make them think their allies are their enemies, so you can sit back and watch as they rend each other apart. Or you can be healing yourself and healing your allies, maybe giving them a little bit of magical confidence, make them fight a little bit harder, no worries. But in general, you'll be blasting people with fire, lightning, or ice. You know, fire, I don't like this stuff, made of wood, but in general it's the cheapest and does the most damage. Lightning, I like. It is the most expensive spell, but regardless of range, if you can hit them with this, they'll be hit instantly. They say it's good against wizards, but in general, you want to end a wizard as quickly as you can. You don't care about their magic, you just want to get rid of them, because they tend to carry potions and spells and other stuff to keep themselves going. Ice is a good one, but Nords are resistant to it. But the main kicker with ice is that it slows people down. They can be resistant to it, but they're going to be going slower. And it's a little bit funny when you see a guy dressed up in heavy armor, slowly walking towards me, thinking he's going to have an easy fight against me. But then I'd zap him a little bit with a frost spell, and he starts walking even slower. But I'm not wearing any armor, so you know what that means? I go really fast. So I'm able to walk away from him as he's slowly trying to walk towards me. But I'm already a greater distance away, so the frost resistance doesn't do him much good if he can't move fast. So I've gone over that, but in general, wizards wear light robes. And the main reason is they need to do very specific sort of movements in general to cast a spell. And magic by its very nature is dangerous, so it does take a bit of training to get used to it. I have no issues, and I know you'll take to it easily, but lesser wizards, they tend to explode violently if they don't understand what they're doing, so just make sure you read a new spellbook properly so that it doesn't explode. And the last combat style is the thief. And I don't judge. Sometimes thieves are pacifists, stealing from the rich and maybe giving to the poor, or keeping it to themselves. I don't judge. The thief is someone who sneaks around and avoids fights, tending to just be there for the gold, the loot, the treasures, and they'll do anything they can to steal it. Whether it's creating a distraction with a bow and arrow, whether it's slinking in the shadows, waiting for the people to pass. They tend to wear light armor, so that if they do get into a bit of a scrape, they can take a few hits or be able to run away easily. And in general, if they do try to a stand-up fight, they'll choose any dirty old tactic, including a swift kick to the weak points to secure an easy victory or get an opportunity to run away. So those are the 3 combat styles. And you're not bound by them like everything else. You can mix and match them as you go along. Ah, okay. Gotcha. So you want to be a stealth archer this time. With all these choices, well, stealth archer is fun. I just recommend making some magical poisons for your arrows. That's my favorite tactic against wizards. So that is all the choices made. You can mix and match them whenever you want, but I have one final question left for you. See, every now and then I come across an exceptional subject, and I recruit them to do a couple of days' work for me. And it is quite tough, I will admit. They do tend to be quite hard, and, well, I can't do it myself. So I tend to recruit some people to do it. Like a Khajiit thief or Argonian assassin. I'll be giving you rewards, of course, and I kind of do mark you with cuff, black and white thigh highs, cuff. Well, look, this is quite a heavy question to ask you right off before you even had a chance to properly get into Skyrim. So I'll tell you what, think on it. Give yourself some time, get some experience, and see how you're getting on. And then, if an occasion arises, I'll come to you and see would you be interested. Okay? Cool. So look, that's everything answered. Those choices can be switched around whenever you want. I just gotta do a few more attribute and stat checks, just to make sure everything is in line before I let you into Skyrim. Okay? I'm gonna get a little bit closer right now, so I hope you don't mind, but I just need to do a bit of a physical check for a bit. That does look quite good there. Let's check this side. Yes, exceptional. See, I forgot to mention it, but I could have easily just ticked boxes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for you, and it wouldn't have been as fun. My favorite part of this is just seeing what you will pick as your choices. That's more fun to me than creating 1,000 of you, which I could have if I wanted to, but it's not as fun. I prefer seeing your choices, because they're the things that matter. We're just about done here. See, I used to be a very different Spriggan, but one day someone captured me. I'll never forget it, but it was a cave. I think it was called Snapleg Cave. Not very pleasant, but there was a bunch of hag ravens in there, and they basically put me in a cage for nefarious purposes, I'm sure. And a kind adventurer came by and let me out. I did go a little bit rogue, and I did kind of take care of some bandits, and I did probably play with them a little bit more than I should have, in an evil manner, sort of, but that was many, many years ago, and I kind of do this stuff as a form of redemption. Instead of taking things out of the game world, I put them in as a form of redemption. So we're just about done here. Just a few more things. Pop that right there. Perfect. So, you're about ready to go. So, all your marbles are in place right now. and you're ready to enter the game world. I am going to put you into sleep mode just before you enter. The final thing I'm going to mention is, I hope you like cart rides. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, you. You're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right? Walked right into that Imperial ambush, same as us.
Click. 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 There. That's better. Click. The next thing I'll ask, it's a little bit soon. Do you consent to your existence? I won't force you to exist if you don't want to. Existence can sometimes be a burden. Click. 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 Click.